Have you ever had a dream so vivid it stayed with you for days only to watch parts of it unfold in real life, down to the smallest detail? What if that dream wasn't just your imagination, but a warning? Tonight, I'm sharing terrifying true stories where dreams didn't just predict reality, they shaped it. And once they began, the line between sleep and waking was never the same again. It all began with a dream that felt more like a memory. Something lodged so deep in the folds of sleep that it refused to vanish upon waking, and it didn't come just once, but night after night. Always the same narrow hallway dimly lit by a flickering light, the click of shoes echoing down the tile floor, and a voice whispering from a door that never opened, calling a name I didn't recognize but somehow knew belonged to me. I didn't give it much weight at first, thinking it was just my mind processing stress. But that changed when real things started bleeding through, like the woman I passed at a gas station who stared at me and muttered, "It's getting closer," before disappearing behind the restroom door and never coming out, or the strange bruises that appeared on my arms in the exact shape of fingers, though I lived alone and kept my bedroom door locked, or how my dog started whining at the closet and refused to sleep in my room anymore. My name is Janelle, I'm 32, and I'm not the kind of person who buys into the supernatural. I work in a dime. I'm rational, logical, always have been, but what happened over the course of 3 months has unraveled everything I believed to be true. And if I can warn anyone, if I can reach someone before they go too far, then maybe I won't feel so completely insane, because this story, as impossible as it sounds, is real. And it didn't just happen to me, it happened to 3 others I met, after digging deep into a forum called the Dream Echoes, a hidden section of the deep web where people who've experienced something like this post when no one else will listen. The first story I read was from someone named Carter, who described a recurring dream of a well in the middle of a burned forest, surrounded by ash and whispering shadows. And when he finally went hiking in real life months later, and miles away, he stumbled into that same landscape, with the exact same twisted trees and cracked stone, and when he peered into the well, he saw something move at the bottom, not a person or an animal, but something shaped like memory, something that breathed with a sigh that wasn't his, and he said that after that day, every time he closed his eyes, he heard things speaking in reverse, whispering secrets about his past he had never told anyone, like how he used to watch his mother sleep to make sure she hadn't stopped breathing when he was 5. Another person, a woman named Sophia, dreamt for weeks about a subway tunnel with no trains, only wind and echoes, and she kept seeing a little girl holding a red balloon at the far end of the platform, always looking away until one day while traveling in Prague, she got lost during construction and ended up in a blocked-off transit station that shouldn't have been accessible. And there the girl stood, only this time she turned around, and Sophia said her face was her own, aged 9, with blood dripping from her ears and tears that moved upward instead of down, and when she screamed, Sophia said she didn't hear it with her ears, but inside her skull. I didn't believe it at first, but then my own dreams began to escalate, saw myself sleeping, from the outside, as if I were watching through someone else's eyes. And behind my sleeping body, a figure moved, never fully seen, always lingering at the edges, breathing just slightly too loud. And then things from my dream began appearing in my apartment. A burned matchstick on the floor, though I never lit one. A scrap of fabric I didn't own wedged under my bed, and once a photo printed out of my unused printer, showing a blurry figure standing at the foot of my bed at 3:13 a.m., which I confirmed by checking my security camera footage and watching the screen glitch for 30 seconds at that exact time. That's when I started looking for others and found Natalie, who said she once dreamed of drowning in a white bathtub while a song played that she had never heard before. Some kind of haunting lullaby in a language she couldn't identify in. Then one day she passed a thrift store that had a dusty vinyl record in the window titled Sueños de Agua, and when she played it, it was the exact same melody, the same instruments, the same voices humming into her bones, and she said she vomited black water for 3 days afterward, even though no doctor could find anything wrong with her. These stories, like mine, weren't just dreams, they were warnings, blueprints, curses carved in sleep, and as I kept collecting them, interviewing people, and tracking down cases that were quietly dismissed by psychologists or labeled parasomnia, I realized there was a pattern to them, a kind of psychic infection that started with small dreams and grew into fully manifested hauntings, not by spirits in the traditional sense, but by echoes, reflections of trauma, grief, guilt, or suppressed memory that took shape in the mind's vulnerable sleep state and then found a way into the physical world. And the worst part was that once it started, you couldn't undo it, because each dream tethered itself to you like a hook under the skin. And trying to stop it only made it worse, like Marcus, a man who dreamed of walking a corridor of doors, each one labeled with a name of someone he had lost, and when he tried to avoid them, he started receiving letters in the mail, handwritten and aged, detailing conversations he never had, signed by dead relatives, and filled with memories he couldn't remember but somehow felt real. I had my breaking point the night I dreamt of a funerary, and watched my mother cry into a black veil, even though she's been dead for 10 years, and when I woke up, my pillow was wet. Not with drool or sweat, but with tears, and my apartment smelled like the same lilies we used at her service. That night I looked in the mirror and saw something standing behind me, and when I turned around, nothing was there but the mirror was cracked, even though I hadn't touched it, and my reflection smiled a split second longer than I did. I started writing everything down, documenting each change, and I realized that certain symbols kept recurring: the hallway, the balloon, the well, the bathtub, the doors. None of these were random. They were archetypes of passage, death, memory, and rebirth. The oldest fears buried in the human subconscious, and I believe that they're not just figments, but gateways, openings to something older than language, older than time, that watches us in sleep and waits for the door to open wide enough. In one final desperate act, I reached out to a sleep researcher named Dr. Eliza Korn, who had studied lucid dreaming at MIT and gone off the grid after publishing a paper at Cognitive Dream States, and she replied with only 3 words: "Didn't go deeper." But by then it was too late. Me, dreams were no longer mine. They had become broadcasts, messages, sometimes from myself in another time, sometimes from people I'd never met but who seemed to know me intimately, and worst of all, sometimes from something pretending to be someone I loved. I tried sleeping in shifts, using pills, staying awake for days, but nothing stopped the dreams. And during one hallucination, or maybe it wasn't, I saw my body lying in bed while my dream self walked away and never came back. I woke up screaming with a nosebleed and a voicemail from an unknown number that only said, "We've met before," in my own voice. I know how crazy this all sounds. I know you might think it's just sleep paralysis or some elaborate delusion. But I promise you, dreams are not safe. Plus, isn't always saying once the walls between dream and waking crack, things come through, not just thoughts, but presences, entire environments stitched from your fears, your regrets, your subconscious guilt, and they will take form. They will live off your belief, and they will follow you into daylight, into your mirror, into your silence. So if you've been dreaming the same dream over and over, if you've seen things repeat in your waking life that you swore only existed in sleep, don't ignore it, don't explain it away, and whatever you do not answer anyone calling your name inside a dream, because that's not your mind calling you back. It's something else, and once you answer, it knows you're listening and it will never stop talking. If this story gave you chills, imagine what's still waiting in your dreams tonight. Some doors, once opened, never truly close. If you've ever experienced something like these, or share it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a nightmare from this channel. Until next Time, sleep light, and whatever you don't answer when your dream calls your name.